Okay, here we go. We're continuing on with part two. So we're going to move into reproductive systems. There may be a few notes that need to be added to the worksheet, but I think I got them all taken care of. If you see anything that looks like it's not on the worksheet, then go ahead and check that. All right, so there is a reproductive system crash course video. So please do watch this one because this one does cover a lot of the material on there. Sex determination, and it's kind of the big one that I want to focus on for you to look at. And then secondary sexual characteristics, female reproductive organs, male reproductive organs and structures on there. So there's Hank's one answer there. All right. So gametes. So when we talk about the reproductive system, really kind of what we're doing is how do we go about going from one generation to the other generation. So we do this with gametes. Those are the sperm cells and the egg cells. So the ovum or eggs are in female, sperm cells are from male. And those are what we call haploid cells. So in humans, a normal human cell has 46 chromosomes. Haploid cells, which are these gametes, have 23. So 23 here and 23 there make us back to 46. So the gonads are the cells that make the sex cells. They're the ones that make the gametes on there. So as we mentioned before, so in females, the gonads are ovaries, and in male, the gonads are testes. Okay. So when we kind of talk about like how did we come to be male or female, this is a result of what we call sex determination. Primarily, there's a specific gene on the Y chromosome that helps do this. So if we look at kind of what's happening in males, we have two different chromosomes. In females, we've got two of the same chromosomes. So this is true for humans and mammals, but other species are set up differently, so they've got different things. So in humans, we've got an X chromosome and a Y chromosome, and in females, we've got two X chromosomes. So what effects do some of these things like estrogen and testosterone have on males and females? That's one of our questions. So this results in what we call our secondary sexual characteristics that we'll get to. So in females, as bodies develop, in females, estrogen results in breast development and a widening of the hips. In males, testosterone is the hormone that we're dealing with, and it produces growth of facial hair, increased muscular development, and deepening of the voice. In both of these, it results in more body hair appearing. Not a huge amount of hair, but body hair appearing as a result of them. So it is worth noting that they are just hormones that any body, whether you have a male body or female body to start with, if you're subjected to estrogen, then these things will happen to your body. If you're subjected to testosterone, then these things will happen to your body. So that it's just something that gets into your body, and it targets those cells, and they respond in the appropriate way. All right. So the other thing that we look at is like, well, how did we get to be male or female in the first place? And this is what we call primary sexual development. And so this is the process of becoming either male or female. And this is a result of this gene called the SRY gene, which triggers the production of testosterone very early on in fetal development. So here's our chromosome. This is our Y chromosome. And this is the SRY gene, which stands for sex determining region of the Y chromosome. It's found usually only on the Y chromosome, although in a few cases it does make its way over to the X chromosome, so that can be kind of a little confusing. This picture on the right shows you kind of how much testosterone is produced on average, comparing males and females kind of throughout their life here. So here you can see with males, you start to see kind of this peak of testosterone early on, and then kind of a little bit just shortly after birth, and then it drops a little bit until adolescence, in which it kind of skyrockets, and then it drops back off. Whereas with females, the testosterone level stays pretty much kind of low. There does a little bit peak a little bit in the late 20 teenage through 30, 40s, but not nearly to the extent that males have it. So this huge bump here is really what's going to cause that change into a developing body becoming male. So in females, we can say this testosterone production is reduced compared to what we have in males in fetal development during the pregnancy here. All right. So if we look at kind of what's happening, so again, here's males have that SRY gene. This is more information than you need to know, but it gives this idea that we produce this extra testosterone, which eventually leads to having male genitalia and external male characteristics. In females, they have no SRY gene, and so this results in female genitalia. Now, there is certainly a lot more to it that goes on. It's not just the SRY gene is the single determining factor. There are some other ones, but this is kind of the basic step that we want to look at. All right, so SRY gene. Okay, so what's happening internally? So 6 weeks of gestation, so 6 weeks after fertilization, we have what we call an undifferentiated fetus. So this is inside, we're looking inside the abdominal cavity of that fetus. And there's what they call a genital fold, genital tubercle. So this is all kind of undifferentiated genitalia there. But inside, we have our kidneys, right? So we're inside our abdominal cavity. And then we have these undifferentiated gonads with what's called a Wolffian duct and a Mullerian duct kind of hanging out nearby. Now, if that SRY gene is present, those gonads are like, we need to start producing a lot more testosterone. And so they do, and there's a feedback mechanism where they produce testosterone, which causes them to produce even more testosterone, and so on. So by 8 weeks of gestation, those Mullerian ducts, which were these purple ones here, they kind of just fade out of existence, whereas the Wolffian ducts continue to expand, and they kind of latch on, and they cause those undifferentiated gonads to become more and more testosterone producers and eventually become testes. And then eventually what's going to happen is they're going to kind of fold forward and overlap. This is the bladder and the ureters. They're going to fold forward and overlap those ureters and eventually kind of work their way down into the scrotum down here. In females, on the other hand, those undifferentiated gonads, which we have here, the Wolffian ducts are going to kind of fade out, and those Mullerian ducts are going to kind of take over. So they're going to not get the signal to become testes. So they're going to say, okay, well, we're just going to continue on this pathway of becoming ovaries instead. And so that eventually will, those Mullerian ducts will eventually kind of wrap around up here. And where they come together here, that will become the uterus. And then those will become the uteral horns of fallopian tubes on there with the ovaries there. And then the genitalia on the outside we'll see will change a little bit. I'm going to go to the next slide. So again, here we're looking at this undifferentiated kind of genital tubercle of early 5 to 6 weeks infanthood along here. On the left, we have male genitalia. On the right, we have female genitalia. So this little bud here will eventually continue to elongate, and that becomes the penis. And then these swellings that are found on either side, in males, those will fuse together. And then the testes, as they descend from the abdomen over the ureters of the bladder, going from the kidneys to the bladder, they will eventually come down into the scrotum down here. On the other side, this genital tubercle will become the clitoris in females, and then these folds will continue to stay folds, and they will become what we call the labia majora and labia minora in females. And then there will be a development. So here's the anus here. So that stays the same in all male and females. But then there'll be this urethral groove. That's where we urinate out of, and that will work its way through the penis in males. It'll stay a small hole in females there. And then there'll be this kind of pocket that becomes the vagina inside the females there. So we'll move on to the next slide. All right. So then we're looking at so what happens in puberty. So this is 10, 12, up through 18, 20, something like that, kind of depending on the individuals. So this is generally considered a period of rapid growth and sexual maturation. Reproductive systems become fully functional. Yeah, 9 to 15 is kind of what we've got in here, just kind of a general start time. And so these secondary sexual characteristics really start to become more prominent. So as we mentioned, in females, breasts grow, pubic hair grows, hips widen and develop. In males, body hair grows, voice breaks, muscle growth increases. So you can kind of see the differences in the pictures there. All right. So kind of some main functions of the male reproductive system: to produce and release active sperm. Female system functions is to produce eggs. All right, so let's go through and prepare the female's body to nourish developing embryos. So that's That's super important too. All right, so let's look through the male reproductive system. What do we actually see here? So we'll list the terms first, and then we'll look at the pictures. So the testes, those are our gonads. They contain something called seminiferous tubules, and those are where sperm form. Okay. In addition, the testes remain held in the scrotum, so they're actually held out kind of away from the body. And I'm not exactly sure why, but sperm formation happens better at a slightly lower than normal body temperature. So the testes really are designed to keep the scrotum, pardon me, is designed to keep the testes away from the body, so it doesn't get too hot. The epididymis is a structure that's kind of located right along the side of the testes, and that's where sperm mature. And then in order to allow them to get out of the body, there's a tube called the vas deferens that connects the epididymis to the urethra, and we'll look at that in the picture and kind of see where that goes. Males also have something called a prostate gland, and this controls the flow of urine and contributes to seminal fluid, and then the penis. And this is the male organ that's used for copulation and urination there. All right, so here's our image. So this is kind of a side view. So here we can see the testes down here. Right? And then this is the epididymis along the side. And then inside of that would be that seminiferous tubules. And then here's the vas deferens, also known as the ductus deferens. Again, it comes up and over those ureters. So this was in the abdominal cavity and came down early on in the fetus. And then it's going to connect to, so here's our prostate gland. And so the prostate gland, just as an aside, that's something that the males need to check regularly as they get older in age, because that can become cancerous. And then the prostate gland connects with the urethra, and then that's where it can exit the body, so the sperm can follow this route to exit the body going out that way. This is kind of a top-down view, so you can see testes, epididymis, vas deferens, or ductus deferens, kind of going out through the prostate and then going out that way. There are some other things in here, seminal vesicles, and other things that we're not going to worry about them. We'll just kind of move past that. Other things of note, I think that's pretty good. All right, so sperm development is the combination of sperm and seminal fluid. This is known as semen. There's between 50 million and 130 million sperm present in every single milliliter of semen, which works out to about 2.5 million sperm per drop on average. So that's a pretty large number there. It's produced at a rate of about 1,500 sperm per second in males once they reach adolescence. The number peaks a little bit kind of in their late teens and early 20s, and then slowly starts to taper off as men age there. All right. So in an 8-minute class period, if you were sitting there, you'd be producing about 7 million sperm. So that's quite a bit there. All right, so here's kind of a visual of this. Sperm parts is we've got the head of the sperm, we've got a midpiece with lots of mitochondria, and then we've got a long tail. So here you can see them kind of wiggling around there. All right, female reproductive structures, we've got the ovaries, and these are the gonads again. They develop the immature eggs to mature eggs. We've got the fallopian tubes where eggs wait to be fertilized. We've got the uterus where fertilized eggs would implant and develop. The cervix, which serves as the entry to the uterus. The vagina, which is the passage leading from the opening of the vulva to the cervix. The vulva, which is a general term for external female genital organs, kind of whatever is visible. And then the clitoris, small, sensitive, erectile part of the female genitals at the anterior end of the vulva there. All right, so visually, if we're looking at these, here we've got the ovaries with the fallopian tubes kind of coming up and over here. And this is, again, kind of a top-down view. So ovary here and here are right and a left ovary. You can see them kind of held in the pelvic cavity there with the fallopian tubes coming up and over. And those kind of come down and around to the middle. So this is our uterus here. It's sometimes described as an inverted pear-shaped organ. So it's usually kind of wider at the top and narrower at the bottom. But it kind of sits in the base of the abdominal cavity there. Here is our cervix. Oops, my line got out of place. Here's our cervix right there, coming in that way. And then this is the vaginal passage here. These are the labia majora here, labia minora there, and then the clitoris up in front that direction. So you can see kind of the different parts of the female reproductive organs there. To think of anything else worth noting in there. No. And then, so structures we want to pay attention to. So females are born with all the eggs that they will ever have inside the ovaries there, and then at puberty, each egg contains something on the pardon me, each ovary contains something on the order of about 400,000 what they call premature eggs. And then over the course of a lifetime, women on average release about 400 eggs, one, sometimes two, during each menstrual cycle. And then that continues from uh, when a woman begins to have her period up through the end of when she has her period, called menopause. Typically happens around 40, 50 years of age, somewhere in that ballpark, although it changes a little bit. All right. And that gets us through the second part. So we'll go ahead and pause and we'll come back for one last little bit. All right. Thank you very much for listening.